at 11 a.m. or thereabouts. And so today I'm really excited. Well, first of all, if you're watching live, give us a comment, say hi, let us know you're watching. And if you catch the replay, hashtag replay, so we know you saw it. If you have questions or comments about what we're talking about today, feel free to put those in the comments, and we'll make sure we either respond or we can comment later. But we'll try to get them live if you're here live. So today I'm really excited because we're going to talk about a book that Janine and I both love. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif, Babin. I'm really excited about this. I love this book. I think it's fantastic. I really believe that for Janine and I, there it is, that are a lot of what we emphasize and talk about in our business and how we run our business is based on a lot of these principles. So I'm really excited to talk about it. So Janine, do you want to kick off? And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we're going live, everything's working good, and get it shared. So if you want to just kick us off, and then we'll go from there.
I will kick us off, and don't forget to throw in a hashtag live if you're watching live, or replay, hashtag replay if you're watching it on the replay. And while that's getting set up, I'll just go back a little bit about why we chose to talk about this week. Is the last couple weeks we've been going over taking a step back and taking stock of your resources, and we give some examples on how to get a little creative in these unusual times with that. But we haven't talked about taking stock of ourselves and our personal resources and getting back to basics on that. And I have to say that this, along with that, in watching the news and looking for resources on what's going on to help our clients, one of the phrases I've seen come up a lot in the news around the relief that's going out there for small businesses is the phrase "through no fault of their own." Right, this whole economic dramatic shift through no fault of their own because it was imposed basically by the government's response to coronavirus. And it's, on the one hand, it's true, but on the other hand, that phrase irritates me because to me, it's that victim mentality kind of thing, right? And we've seen there are business owners that are hunkering down, and there are others that are just jumping into the fray. And so around this theme of this book we love of extreme ownership, that's about taking ownership. It's like, okay, it's through no fault of our own, but we need to take ownership of the fact that we're business owners, and we decided to jump into the fray of the business world, and things get thrown at you all the time. It could be coronavirus and a government shutdown. It could be a Facebook algorithm change or a Google change or a technological market shift. Right? I mean, look at what's going on with brick and mortars to the internet. It's like there are some that still aren't keeping up with that, but they chose to go into business and they need to adapt or die, right, Amelie?
Right.
Right. And so since, of course, we love systems and efficient operations and stuff, we're going to talk about this book, but we're also going to talk about the system around personal development and business development and how to do these things. Because I've also seen where people are throwing out, oh, you should read this book or read that book. And sometimes I've run into people where it seems like they're just keeping a tally of how many books they read, as if that is somehow in and of itself helping them with their business. And it's not necessarily. It could be, even though they're great books, it could be just taking a lot of time away. So we'll talk about the system behind your book choices. And so the first thing is around setting daily reading time or weekly reading time, but setting a time to actually read and commit yourself to development of yourself and your business through the knowledge that you're taking in. And this is something that we did in medicine, where the journals in your specialty, you just read them as they come. And so there's research around the specific thing that you're trying to learn about because it applies to a patient problem that you have at the time. And then there's just keeping up with the industry, and you have that to fall back on. It's amazing how many times something will come up where you're like, oh, I just read that last week. Have you seen that happen, Amelie?
I know yeah, definitely. Or like situations that are examples in a book that you read, and then you get a real life example of it, so you can apply whatever principle you learned. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I know you have dedicated reading time. I do too.
Yeah, it's important. I think that one of the things that we will talk about a little bit more is making time to take action on the things that you read. So, and that's probably one of the things that takes or requires me, or sorry, makes me, when I'm reading a book, it takes longer because I might read something and say, oh, okay, now I need to try to implement that into my life. And so it takes me a little bit longer to get through things. But I think that will, like, I gather more of the information because I take the time to try to implement it, but it just takes me longer to get through books. So then I start having like little stacks of books and things that I'm like reading multiple of, and all of that because I'm like, oh, I want to apply this, but before I move in further into the book, I want to make sure that I've applied this principle or whatever whatever I'm learning about. So I think it does take me sometimes longer to get through books, but I also think that I'm gathering more of the information because I'm actually taking and trying to apply it as I'm reading it, instead of getting through the whole book and then thinking, man, I can't remember that exact principle that I wanted to, get into or something like that.
Absolutely. And the method of reading is more like, I really prefer reading print books. And I know a lot of people prefer audiobooks. It's like, I have a hard time paying attention to them. I usually start doing something else, and then I find I'm not in a place to like stop and take notes or implement something I want to take action on. And that brings us, so one of the things you had brought to my attention was I was not familiar with Read It For Me. And I have to say, I was kind of rolling my eyes on the inside because, like, I prefer to go to the source material. And so the shortcut is like, because sometimes they're not done well. It'll have, whoever's doing it, their little personal twist on it or that kind of thing. But I wasn't thinking about it from the point of view of that application, right? And so so the way they boil it down and take that method of, hey, here's the main point, and this is where you want to stop and do something, and then get to the next point and stop and do something. So it can be a quicker, more efficient way to go through a book, which was interesting to me. So
I'm going to share our link. I'm going to share this link it's called readit4.me. And it's a pretty great program. I signed Janine up for her own account without her knowing, and then told her about it later. I also signed myself up for an account too, but I'm just going to put that in the comments there so that everyone can see it. Let's see if it showed up there. Okay, there it is. Okay, so it showed up.
Yep. And so you did that, and then I started clicking around on it, and ended up getting on a call with Steve Cunningham, one of the co-founders of it. And what I found interesting was we got into this discussion about the difference between successful business leaders and not so successful business leaders, and how they have that method of when they learn something and they act on it, and then they reflect on it, and then they share it. And which is very much like the scientific method, right? It's like, you want to analyze it. You should be tracking on your metrics. You should be looking at these things. But I just never thought about it in terms of a book.
I do think that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That a lot of times, and I've been in this position too, where it's like taking in information, and it's just like this constant flow of information. And like at some point you just got to stop, and you actually have to like take action until you get to like the next step, and then you got to look up whatever that is, right? Like you almost have to like take the next step and consume information based on what you need. And instead of just consuming all this information and never taking action on it, because at that point you've gotten probably 5 different versions of the same theory, just explained slightly different. And then you're trying to like fit all the pieces together. And then it becomes this effed up puzzle that you try to put together because you got all these people, ultimately a lot of these theories are the same. They're just explained slightly different and they use different words. So then you're trying to fit all this together. And so when I was a 2CCX coach, one of the main things I would explain to people is, listen, you need to consume content based on what the hurdle is in front of you. If you just consume content nonstop and you're never taking action, at what point are you actually analyzing and applying what you're learning, and then going back and looking at what changes?
Oh, it just froze for a little bit. Amelie. All right. Amelie froze for a second there, so I'm just going to pick up on that idea around the around the thing that's right in front of you, and that goes into like, what book are you going to select, right? Because if you're following a favorite guru and they're throwing out titles of books that they just read, that book may not be the best one for where you are in your business. And so it's important to make sure you're picking the one that is relevant to what you have that you're facing. Oh, maybe she's coming back. We'll see what happens. But I'll just keep rolling with it in the meantime. So that is around selecting the right book. I have a few notes here because I wanted to hit on all these points. And then how you take it in, we talked about. So whether it's Audible, whether it's a condensed version, whether you're just reading it for print, just make sure it fits in your time schedule. You don't want to take more time than you need to around that kind of thing. And so with that, let's see, I'm going to just roll into extreme ownership and some of the main points around it, and then again, how to apply. So extreme ownership, listen, I'm a super fan. I got my Jocko mug going on here. Get after it. We got things to do, right? And we need to apply them. And anyway, extreme ownership is a really fun book because it goes back and forth between the real world stories of what Jocko and Leif are doing in combat in their SEAL team in really intense, extreme circumstances, and then directly applying how the concept that made them successful there applies to business. And so they're just rolling through these fundamental principles. And the first one starts with extreme ownership, the fundamental principle of owning your role in your business, anything that impacts your mission and your people. It's really important. So, you know, again, this goes back to what I was seeing in the news, and it was irritating me. It's, oh, through no fault of your own. It's like, I'm still a business owner. I'm still responsible for that. I have clients that I'm still responsible to, Amelie and I both, and we take ownership of that. It's special to us. It's, you know, this is their livelihoods. This is the people that they serve and the important things that they're doing. It's why we do what we do. It's important, and we need to take ownership of that. Hold on. I'm trying to get Amelie connected here again. Let's see. Okay. Yay, technology, right? So I think. Oh, you're back! Yay!
Kind of.
Oh, I can't hear you now.
Oh, no. Okay, hold on.
Oh, I can't hear you yet. Not yet.
What, can you hear me?
No audio.
What about now?
Nope. Still nothing. Hey, we can do this in 2 parts. We can just end this and just restart it. You want to try that?
Okay, let's end it then.
Because we really need to hear you. Okay. All right, everyone. We will be right back.